I've read about Ralph Bakshi's movies for many years now, and have never actually seen any of them until Fritz the Cat, even though I have a copy of the animated Lord of the Rings right here. Fritz the Cat is something that I've heard about for so long, and I've heard about how controversial it was at the time that it came out, and how it's literally like it's one of those movies that completely is justified in its NC-17 rating, or I believe it was an X rating when it first came out. But I saw it pop up on Prime and was like, fuck it, I gotta watch it, because who knows, streaming, how streaming is, it's gonna be taken off like tomorrow or whatever. So I was like, fuck it, let's watch it. And boy, does this live up to it exceeded the expectations that I had going into it, actually, because I was wondering if it was, like, at first I was wondering, is this really going to be as bad as I think it's going to be? Like, is it as gnarly as the internet is saying it is? And yes, it is. It is very extreme. And in the first like 10 or 15 minutes, there's like an orgy of a bunch of animals, all these anthropomorphic characters. Like the cops are like pigs, and then the main character Fritz the cat is a cat who's just goes on this hedonistic journey after he quits college. He basically walks away from being at NYU, and it's interesting that this was already something that people were talking about as far as a criticism of higher education and the kind of elitism that goes along with that. Fritz basically has this whole like, fuck this bullshit kind of moment of clarity where he's just, what, fuck this, I'm gonna go and do a bunch of drugs and fuck a bunch of women and do a bunch of crazy shit, and he gets kind of lost in that. By the end of the movie, it gets very dark. Actually, there are a lot of this movie I think is actually very important in everything that and this does happen, and most of the time this is why things are offensive, is it's just a statement or some sort of criticism of society. In a lot of ways, this movie is riddled with that, riddled with just it's a big fuck you to society, and the way that, and it's nuts to see that just people are already feeling this way in 1972, or that this was something that was it's crazy how many of these things are still relevant, is what I'm always fascinated by with these older films. But it was, like I said, it exceeded all of the expectations I had, but I wasn't expecting it to get so dark. There are a lot of moments where, this movie made me think. There's a lot of moments where I was just like, damn, like I couldn't help but acknowledge the ugliness of the world. This movie. At least at some point, he gets like, because he goes on a road trip to the from New York to the West Coast, and at some point breaks down on the road and ends up linking up with this guy that's literally like has a swastika, like this rabbit that has a swastika on his motorcycle, and from there on, it's a lot of it was very uncomfortable. I've watched so many movies, and a lot of them are my favorites. I've watched so many fucked up movies. It's insane, actually. I have watched a Serbian film. I have watched Irreversible. Requiem for a Dream is actually a favorite of mine, and I've watched it a handful of times or more. I have no problem watching really fucked up stories. I have no problem with that at all. This movie made me extremely uncomfortable, despite it being animated and having a bunch of characters that were anthropomorphic animals. It was wild to feel that way. It was actually crazy to kind of have to take it. I had to like take a step back, kind of in my own head sometimes throughout while I was watching it. I had to take a step back and be like, oh my God, like what is this trying to say? Or it forced me to think, is what I really appreciated about it. The extremely offensive nature of all of it is the point of it. And I'm always a fan of when things are, intentional like that. Like, not like, is where I have a lot of hate for shows like Family Guy, or shows that feel like they're offensive for the sake of being offensive, instead of, or basically, a lot of modern internet content, at least too, is like being offensive for the sake of offensive really doesn't do anything. It's not really funny. It's not going to make people take you seriously or make them think about the important things. This movie will actually get you to think about all sorts of stuff. There's a whole part in the middle of it where, you know, he is standing on a car and preaching a lot of, like, just like talking to a lot of characters, all these characters that are basically crows that are supposed to represent black people, and him and basically gets into, like, you know, trying to be a voice for them and how awful it is how blacks are treated in the world and everything. And it was very and there's a very serious moment where one of the crows gets shot, and it was very sad. Like, there are a lot of, this movie goes from so wild and wacky and horny and funny and crazy to, like, boom, like a real, like, pin drop moment where you can't help but take it very seriously all of a sudden. And I was really amazed by that. I was very taken aback at how I didn't expect that. It's like when South Park gets serious, right? And I'll keep referencing, I might reference that a lot, or, like, I don't think South Park could exist without this movie. This movie is kind of like the OG offensive animated anything. I don't know. I don't know. I apologize for not doing more research about these things before just making these videos. I'm not AI. I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to make a whole thing where all the information is so perfectly placed for you. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this is like one of the first, like, this is the OG adult animated movie or TV show or whatever. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it because of everything that I said. It just got me thinking. This is a really good high movie as well, because it'll get you thinking about a lot of, like, deep shit, and because there are a lot of lovely uses of color in this. I've talked about animation, and I've talked about animated movies a lot on this channel, and that's purely coincidental. I just happen to be watching those right now because I love animation. I love. I guess, you know, in a time right now where AI artwork is especially becoming like a whole, like, a unnecessary, I mean, I'm a musician, so AI music is right there with it, but AI, like, artwork, actual visual arts and music are like the biggest things that people like very easily, you could easily throw those two specific things, you can throw them together most easily through AI. I apologize for the terrible wording on that. but AI art being a thing is pissing me off so much that I really want to watch as much hand-drawn animation as I can and watch as many things made by people as I can. But yeah, animated films are great just because of the visuals that they have. And this movie has so many wonderful uses of color. It's so psychedelic, and so I can picture a lot of people watching this on acid or shrooms or smoking a lot of pot and watching it. It wouldn't be a terrible movie to watch while drunk. It's just, you know, it's very depraved and pushing as many envelopes as it can, and doing everything in just the most extreme way possible. It's like every 2 seconds in this movie, there's either, like, people fucking or doing drugs or killing each other, or dicks and vaginas and titties out. Like, it's just constant that. It's just constantly that, and constantly in your face about it, and unapologetic. And as obviously, if you know me, that you've seen these, you know how much I really appreciate that, and how much I appreciate things that are just have a big fuck you attitude to society, because it's the attitude I have. And I think that that's kind of the point of what I think that's the artist's main job, is to not even criticize society, but try to hold up a mirror to it. And this movie holds up a mirror very well to how ugly and horrible people are. And you know that because there's not a single person in this fucking movie. It's all animals, but you can't help but feel like every bit of it is just a statement of how animalistic and barbaric human beings can really be. Even though this came out, 54 years ago? Holy fucking shit, 54 years ago. Even though it came out that long ago, it still has so much to say, and I am here for it. I think this is a very important movie, for better or worse, whether you can watch something like this or not. I think this movie needs to exist, and I think the movies like this are the ones that really just pierce through the bullshit that society creates. Ralph Bakshi, I can't wait to watch some of his other flicks. I will definitely do a review on Lord of the Rings soon. But Fritz the Cat, it's definitely a movie worth watching. Check it out on Prime if you have it, and why you still can, because you know that things get taken away or whatever, things get switched up on streaming. And this is actually one of the few movies that I do now. I want to look up on Amazon in a second here, even though I'm not, I don't mean to promote Amazon on here. I'm just saying it's like a very easy way to obtain physical media. But now I'm going to, look up on there and see if they have a copy of this on DVD or on Blu-ray maybe, and see if I can get a copy of it, because I do want to own a copy of this movie, and plan on showing this to some friends of mine to make them uncomfortable as well, because it'll be funny. Thanks for watching.